Okay, it's just about time to get started. It's 1 p.m. now. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Ken. I'm here in the small window right now because we're sharing the screen. And I am with Shop3D.ca, and I have with me Levi Smith from Formlabs. He's a 3D printing specialist over at Formlabs. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the Form 3L, which we've all been super interested in. And now we have a chance to kind of go through some of the details of it. So I'll take you guys through the webinar. We'll get started. And please feel free to chat and ask us questions as required, in the chat. There will be a time for question and answer today. But if you have anything pressing, you can go ahead and ask those questions in the chat. So we can get started with our presentation. The speakers for today is going to be Levi and I think I went through that before. Levi's been with Formlabs for, I think, 4 years. It's been a while. I've known Levi for a while.
Yeah, it has been a little while, Ken, about 2 years now.
Oh, 2 years. Okay. It seems longer.
That's a byproduct of a great relationship, right?
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've done a lot of work together, so that's why we've been in the trenches for a while. I'm one of the co-founders of Shop3D.ca. For those of you who have been our customers, you've definitely had some contact with me. I love being on the ground and talking to all the customers. So I should be fairly familiar to all of you who have contacted us before. All right. So today we are going through some of the product highlights for the Form 3L. And the reason why we're choosing this time to do it is because we're nearing the shipping time for the Form 3L. So it's been a long time waiting, but it's finally very, very close. We do expect to be shipping orders by the end of Q4 2020 this year. So that's been super exciting for us. We've all been waiting for this unit to come out. So now is a great time for us to talk about it. Thanks so much. Okay, just a quick agenda for what we're going to do today. We're going to try to keep it within an hour. A very, very quick blurb about Shop3D if you haven't engaged with us before. A little blurb about Formlabs in case you don't know who Formlabs is. We're going to go through a quick, brief product overview of the Form 3L, talk about some user cases, check out some sample parts, and then finally we're going to have Q&A at the end. We are one of the original partners for Formlabs. We've been in the industry for over 5 years now. We've just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. And thank you to all of you who are already our customers. And we've worked with Formlabs, exclusively for quite a bit. They're definitely one of the core brands that we carry. And we sought them out, in the very beginning when we were a very small, dedicated team. And we really grew with Formlabs, and Formlabs also as well has grown tremendously over the years, both in, the depth of product that they have and the team that they have there. One of the things that sets us apart is we do have a very small team approach to working with our customers. We have a small dedicated team. All of us are 3D printing experts here. We do a lot of printing and we do a lot of support. We think that goes hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other. And so that's something that we strive to focus on. We do have 2 showrooms, currently one in Mississauga and one in Vancouver. We used to have a lot more visitors, but right now during COVID, it's not as prominent. And we primarily serve industries including manufacturing, healthcare, education, and the government sector. So I'm going to pass it over now to Levi so we can get to the meat of the webinar. Thank you all for attending. Please enjoy what Levi has to share with us. Go ahead, Levi.
Terrific. And Ken, I really appreciate kind of the introduction. And just congratulations on the 5 years, right? It's been an exciting journey. Oh, absolutely. I always like to kind of take this opportunity to really touch on what a partner to Formlabs kind of represents and what we're really looking for. And I think this is one of the key components of Shop3D, right? We're always looking for partners who can extend our user experience further with their customers, with their expertise, with their kind of focus. And that's truly what we get with Shop3D, right? They're our top partner in Canada. They deliver a terrific end user experience, whether it's from the support side of things, the application side of things. And they have a core focus on a couple of products that really drives more or less a holistic approach to solving application problems, right? And I think that's one of the wonderful things I see interacting with Shop3D, their customers, is whether that's an application problem upstream or maybe something downstream, or obviously 3D printing, kind of midstream, they're going to have a solution for you, right? And so with Shop3D, all you really have to do is come to them with that application problem, and they're going to have a holistic approach, a holistic solution for that problem. So again, it's always a pleasure working with Shop3D. I'm really excited, obviously, to be hosting this. And, as we kind of step into kind of what Formlabs represents, what we're all about here, our goal at Formlabs is to expand access to digital fabrication so anyone can make anything. And there's two key questions we ask there, which is, how easy can we make our products to use? How versatile can we make them? And just kind of going back to that first point, it's something we're constantly asking ourselves. And a great line I always like to kind of use there is, 44% of our users have little to no 3D printing experience before using Formlabs. And we're not talking folks who have FDM experience moving over to SLA. We're talking anybody, a dentist coming into 3D printing for the first time, someone who's coming from the subtractive space moving over is a great kind of component there. And so, there's a lot of there's a lot of ease of use kind of built into our product here. And as we kind of step through here, we do have a poll that we're launching. Please, take your time, definitely answer that. I'll bring that poll over here real quick. But, the second component of Formlabs is versatility, right? So we're always looking at how do we make our products easier to use? How do we make them more versatile? We look at versatility as, range of applications you can print with Formlabs, right? And so with us, that really comes down to materials. And from our initial start to where we are now, we have over 30 plus resins to choose from. The range of applications and the ease of use you get with Formlabs really allows us to expand access to this type of technology. So that's really what we're all about. Just a quick kind of historical overview of Formlabs. We initially started back in 2012. Max, our founder, obviously comes from MIT, got a chance to work with a lot of SLA technology in that media lab over at MIT. He was very, very impressed by it. The key thing he kind of took away from that, of course, was not a whole lot of people had access to this type of technology. And that's when he got together with with our original founders, built his first inverted SLA in the basement. And then, wanted to kind of just bring this technology to a couple of folks. And really what he found was, there's a huge kind of need for this type of technology at the desktop level for individual designers, product engineers, anyone who's looking to design and fabricate something. And, put it up on Kickstarter, want to raise a couple $100,000. In fact, raised about $3 million, had 3,000 backers within the first 30 days. And that's where we really saw that this technology has a lot of opportunity out there. So that's 2012. Form 1 Plus was an iteration on that, a little bit more ease of use, a little bit more versatility. And then Form 2 was a real game changer for us in terms of that ease of use and that versatility. Really expanded our material library, put about 40,000 of these Form 2s out in the world. And that really what kind of brings us to 2019 when we launched our Form 3, Form 3L, and our new proprietary technology known as LFFS, or low force stereolithography. And we'll get into that as we go on here. But again, it's been a really exciting journey. Over 70,000 printers out in the world that have produced more than 70 million parts. And I always kind of like to just touch on 3D printing and the range of applications available. And really what it comes down to is cost per part. The thing that I make, can I do it cheaper with 3D printing? And this is a great kind of historical overview of 3D printing on a cost per part basis, right? Here, obviously, at the timeline, the range of applications, and as that cost per part goes down, exponentially increases the amount of applications you have access to. So if you think about 2009, 3D printing was really tied to large industrial systems, expensive materials, very limited set of applications that, really justified that type of technology, right? So maybe a lot of prototyping in high-end aerospace, maybe automotive. And as that cost per part goes down, as, the affordability of that technology drops, as the price point of the materials drops, the range of applications you have access to exponentially grows, right? Now we're really moving into small run production with plastic parts. If anyone has a chance to take a look at some of the collaborative efforts we have with New Balance and the current shoes that we're building. We're actually building in-use performance midsoles for New Balance on the Form 3 3L platform. So again, really exciting. And what I really want to talk about is obviously what does a larger build volume represent with SLA in the additive market. And so what you have here is data that we pulled from 3D Hubs, which is a distributed manufacturing platform online. And we pulled a lot of data from them in terms of what this represents. So what are people printing in SLA? So on the left, you have the volume of parts being made. And on the bottom, you have the maximum part dimensions or the size of that part. And obviously, the amount of parts being produced with SLA are obviously smaller parts. That's where you see the volume. And then as it kind of extends, obviously the size of the Form 3 kind of puts that limitation in place. And with the Form 3L, it exponentially increases the range of applications, the opportunities to print middle to large size parts exponentially increases. And so whether you have a smaller part or obviously something much larger, you're going to have the opportunity to build that in-house with the Form 3L. So just want to kind of give you a snapshot of what that represents on the Form 3L and the range of part dimensions you're going to have access to. So just a quick overview on the Form 3L. The thing we're obviously going to touch on is the build volume, right? It's 5 times the size of the Form 3. And, there's been so much input we've received over the last 6 to 7 years with regards to build volume, right? We have a lot of customers come to us say, hey, listen, I love how reliable it is. I love how, my print success, the range of materials. If it's a little bit bigger, I could do a lot more with it, right? And a great example of that is some of the work we've done with Google's ATAP lab, right? So Google's ATAP lab is essentially their fabrication lab, right? It's where all the application problems for Google go with regards to manufacturing, right? So we do a lot of work with them. We've had a lot of success in terms, we have a couple of case studies online. Definitely take a look at those. But we definitely sat down with them and kind of asked that question, which is, we're thinking about building bigger. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think? And their response was, stop everything that you're doing and do that immediately, right? This is an organization that budgets thousands of dollars a month to do large outsourced SLA parts, and they saw the need immediately. So, that's kind of where I want to start with the Form 3L. It's kind of just the history. It's always been the one thing that we've been trying to solve, which is a much bigger build volume for some of the parts that we see out there in the world. So in terms of the Form 3L, it's all built on our proprietary LFS or low force stereolithography. It has 2 advanced optics LPUs for the increased build volume that is the Form 3L. And obviously it's very modular. So the LPUs that you see on the screen there, again, those are user replaceable. And if anyone's had a chance to use our Form 2 technology, whenever you had any issues with the optics unit, it was essentially a return to depot situation where we had to recalibrate the machine. And making the LPUs modular really allows you the opportunity to replace those LPUs if they ever have any issues. And so it really saves a lot of downtime. So obviously, the Form 3L is also going to include a tremendous amount of reliability and ease of use, but it really comes down to the modularity of our LPUs with regards to that downtime. There's a lot of cross-compatibility with the Form 3L. So you're going to use the same preform, the same dashboard functionality. It's obviously cross-compatible with all our resin cartridges that you see on the Form 2 or Form 3 and 3B. Integrated sensors. So there's more than 20 integrated sensors on this machine to increase uptime, eliminate any downtime issues you might have that's detecting, maybe some irregularities in the resin tray. If it's got a more robust resin level sensor, so it's going to make sure it has the proper amount of resin in the resin tank itself. And of course, it's built on our proprietary LFS or low force stereolithography, which obviously delivers incredible printer reliability, and of course, part quality. And truth of the matter is, with LFS, we had to build this before we could actually build the Form 3L. So when we think about LFS, just that technology itself, our initial goal was to build bigger, right? And what the true beauty of LFS in general is it decreases peel force associated each layer that you're building with an SLA printer. Right, so if you look at the peel force of the Form 2 versus the Form 3 and 3L, the peel force is exponentially decreased by about tenfold, right? And when you do that, not only are you getting more complex with your prints, getting better surface finish, but you're also able to do much larger prints. And that's what the Form 3L represents. You know, we had to build LFS before we could build the Form 3L. And so just a quick kind of snapshot on what LFS is. Again, it's SLA printing that uses a flexible tank and linear elimination to turn liquid resin into flawless parts. And this just gives you a great example of kind of the process there. In terms of the benefits, again, huge parts, high print success, smooth surface quality, and fine detail. A great example of that is the print that you see on the screen there. The part that you see on the left, that was printed in our clear resin, is about a 24-hour build, if I'm not mistaken. Roughly 1,700 milliliters is the size of that part. So the size of the parts you're going to print or be able to print are exponentially increased with this machine. So we'll do a quick kind of virtual demo of the Form 3L here. We talked about cross-compatibility a little bit earlier, but one thing that is not going to be cross-compatible, of course, is the build platform. Again, this is an aluminum framed build platform. It's obviously got two handles just based on the size of the parts that you're going to pull off that machine. So that's one thing that won't cross over. But just in terms of the actual tank itself, I always like to kind of touch on this because, you know, it does include a flexible tank, which is what you see there. You can see the x-axis and kind of the print action that's associated to our LPUs here. We have a robust level sense built into the machine, so that's part of the integrated sensors associated with Form 3L. The mixer is actually kind of a unique change we made. So if anyone's ever used our Form 2 technology, obviously you have that mixing motion associated to each layer that you build. With the Form 3L and Form 3 LFS technology, again, you don't have to mix the resin as much. And the level sense, again, is just more robust. So it's going to always deliver the proper amount of resin into that tray, and it will automatically refill that tray whenever there's a lack of resin within it. The motherboard, we actually, we seated it at the far end of the printer. So obviously this is just to make sure that we protect some of the circuitry associated with Form 3L. But again, if there is ever a catastrophic print failure or anything associated to maybe a resin spillage, it's tucked off into the right side of the corner just to protect it further. So just to give you kind of a quick snapshot there. And of course, the cartridges are all cross-compatible. The Form 3L gives you the opportunity to print with 2 resin cartridges. Pretty much the size of that tray is going to allow you to, the minimum fill rate is about a liter of resin. So each tray does require about a liter of resin to start, but you do have the ability to put 2 cartridges into the machine. Those are cross-compatible. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about some of the beta feedback we've had. So I know at the end of last year, we had delayed the shipment of this product, but the benefit of that, the positive side of that, of course, is we were able to gather a tremendous amount of beta feedback from some customers that have been using our platform for quite some time. One that I want to talk about today is Optimus Ride. Again, they developed self-driving technologies for obviously mobility systems. So this is just a quick snapshot of kind of their lab. And the biggest problem they obviously had, and it's a classic insourcing versus outsourcing problem, was just unpredictable lead times, high costs to work with service bureaus. And they had medium to large size parts that they really needed to dial in terms of prototyping and product development for these mobility systems. And they were actually a true believer of insourcing, right? So right off the bat, you know, they had the Form 2, they had the Form 3 technology in-house. They were really happy with being able to control a much better kind of design workflow and the iterations associated with controlling that design workflow, not having to outsource, wait for those parts to come back. So they were actually doing a lot more post-processing, right? They would build these large enclosures. They'd essentially build it in multiple sections and do a lot more post-processing to put that together and really dial that part in. So that was kind of their traditional workflow. And with the Form 3L, they're able to do that in one singular build and essentially just really eliminate a lot of their post-processing and never have to rely on outsourcing some of these large SLA style parts that they have. And one thing that they were exponentially impressed with, because they saw this with some of the larger service bureaus that they were working with, is even though these parts are huge, they're still getting the same surface quality finish that they've always seen from the Form 3 and Form 2 platform. So they're extremely impressed with that. They're still getting the reliability, and there's still a tremendous amount of ease of use with these printers. So this is just one of many. Again, as of September 15th, there'll be a lot of testimonials coming out about the Form 3L, kind of what the product feedback has been from them, what they like, what they're really excited about. So this is just one of many to come. So want to do a quick sample part review. The standard sample that we're going to be offering with the Form 3L is this vacuum nozzle. Again, printed in our gray resin. Each nozzle takes roughly 5 hours to build and about 63 milliliters per part, about 950 in terms of material. Let me see if I can just pull up my video here. I want to show you just some of those parts. So here's the vacuum nozzle. I apologize if it's a little bit fuzzy, but I want to show you just some of the detail. Again, no support structure, built directly on the build platform. You can kind of see some of the lettering there, right there. But again, 100 microns and about a 5 hour part. The other part I have is a full femur bone right here, printed in our clear at 100 microns. You can see some of the support structure, how it was optimized for printing. And then obviously you can see hopefully some of the lettering there on the part itself. So just want to showcase some of the samples that we have. The vacuum nozzle will be the standard sample that we have available. The next thing I kind of want to touch on is when we start shipping this at September 15th, the initial resins that will be available, right? So right off the bat, when this thing starts shipping September 15th, gray, clear, tough 2000, elastic 58 will all be available. So we have a wide range of both our standard and our most popular engineering resins. Again, really excited that we're going to be shipping this with elastic already validated. But we have a fairly aggressive release schedule with regards to other materials that will be validated. So just keep that in mind. You know, we're going to have a lot of our engineering materials validated as we in Q3 move into Q4. I'd say the bulk of our materials will be validated before the end of the year. So just keep that in mind. Any questions on this, do not hesitate to reach out to Shop3D or Formlabs. And kind of going off that point, the other thing I want to keep in mind as well is, you know, we're in the process of ramping our manufacturing. So pre-orders placed now will start shipping at the end of this year. So if you put the orders in today, again, you guys will have those before the end of the year is out. I did want to reinforce that point. So we're really in a good spot to start shipping these in quantity in volume over here at Formlabs. There unfortunately won't be a post-processing automated solution with Formlabs specifically right off the bat. Each machine will come with a standard finishing kit. Again, this finishing kit is much larger, right? You know, I think the wash, the essentially finish kit that's going to allow you to wash those parts, it's going to take roughly 5 gallons of solvent or IPA. To fill the bucket and obviously be able to wash those medium to large size parts. But we do have off-the-shelf recommendations for third-party solutions that have been validated by Formlabs. We are recommending the Tovatech Elma P180 or P300 ultrasonic cleaning solutions. And again, these have been validated by Formlabs. So if you need an automated solution right off the bat, we do have validated third-party solutions. Definitely talk to Shop3D, or obviously you can find these online.
Yeah, I'll also jump in here real quick. We will also be a reseller for the Elma series. So, you know, we do intend to have this available, you know, at the launch of the Form 3L. Awesome.
Terrific. And just a quick summary on the specifications. Build volume-wise, again, 13.2 by 7.9 by 11.8. So again, 5 times the build volume of the Form 3. It has 2 modular LPUs. Again, any of these optics goes down or it's not working properly, it's easily replaceable by the end user. It does give you the ability to have 2 resin cartridges for continuous printing. And again, for the most part, most folks are printing at 100 microns or above. but we will have the ability to get down to 15, 25 micron with specific resins that we have available for those settings. So just keep that in mind as well. So how much will it cost? And kind of going off that point, right now you can still lock in your pre-order pricing at $13,999. That's obviously Canadian dollars. And that price will change as of September 15th. So you can still lock in your pre-order price. You can still get this machine before the end of the year at $13,999. And the other thing I was going to mention, and actually, you know what? I was going to throw it right back over to Ken.
Great. Thanks, Levi, for that wonderful overview. I think that tells us a lot about the unit. And that's right. We do have a limited time pre-order price left up until, I believe, September the 15th for that lower pre-order price. Some of you out there have already placed a deposit on one. And, you know, for those of you who did, thank you. We will be contacting you to fulfill the rest of the order. And of course, you'll be guaranteed that pre-order price. And just to bring it back to, you know, Shop3D, you know, the Form 3L is really, really an exciting product for us to carry. You know, never before have we seen SLA parts being printed at this size, you know, at this price range. So it's really hitting a level where, you know, it's unprecedented. And, you know, that truly, you know, invigorates us and the product line that we carry with Formlabs. And, you know, just some of the, you know, reasons to shop with Shop3D. You know, we do have a team of dedicated experts and we are platform agnostic. So we do see multiple different platforms and we are able to answer, you know, questions on multiple different platforms, you know, with regards to what may be the best fit for you. That's something that, you know, our experts here in our team, our applications engineers can answer directly for you. We have a direct sales and support team available here. So some resellers, you know, don't take on as much support role as we do. You know, we find that that's super important. It's the most important way for us to kind of have that conversation with the customer on a regular basis if need to. That way you're not scared if you have a question, hey, you know, should I be doing this? You know, we can also have some preventative, you know, measures put in place. If you just call us and ask, we can give you the advice that you need. And of course, you know, that's all accessible to you. We do have local inventory and we do ship every day. If you place your order before 2 p.m., we tend to ship the same day. That's local time. So if you do that in Vancouver, you know, Vancouver will ship at 2 p.m. And then we distribute from both our warehouses in Toronto, Vancouver. We try to cover most of Canada with that. And usually to most major cities, it only takes 1 to 2 days of delivery, maybe plus 1 day right now for COVID. But, you know, in general, we are very aware of the shipping schedule and we will communicate with you if there are any delays in shipping.
Terrific, terrific. And, you know, Ken touched on a really good point there, right? You know, so we always look at, you know, some of the other vendors out there, not as competition, but just as great complements to our solution, right? And I think what Shop3D really brings to the table, you know, we touched on their ability to solve workflow problems, application problems, but being able to understand, you know, kind of the workflow, your workflow with regards to FDM versus SLA, what's the most efficient way to go about the project that you're building. They have a terrific perspective on that. I've seen that live in person. And, you know, so definitely keep that in mind when working with Shop3D. The other thing I was going to mention just real quickly here is as of September 23rd, you know, once we get past September 15th, we are going to have another joint promotional webinar. This one's going to be very in-depth. It's really going to be focused on a lot of our beta testimonials, a lot of what the feedback has been with these initial units out in the field. Again, very excited about some of the customers we're going to have and going to discuss on that webinar. So definitely, if you have time, save that date. I know Shop3D is going to get that information off to you in the next couple of weeks. But again, we're going to have some great feedback, great perspective on what the Form 3L is all about in the field. And with that said, we're going to pass it over to the Q&A section of today.
Yeah, so everybody, if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand and type it in, and we will certainly try to answer it for you. I see that we have 2 questions already. One from Key Tran, and I'll read out his question, and maybe Levi can answer it for you. So Key's question is, I understand there are 2 lasers. Is it to cure twice by scanning twice?
Interesting question. So really the 2 LPUs, and I just saw the visual this week. Obviously there's going to be some great content in terms of the technical action associated to 2 LPUs working in tandem, but it's really to cover the build volume or the space, right? So there will be an overlapping component to these 2 LPUs in the central region of that build space, but it's not scanning twice or lasing twice. It's really just to cover the size of that build volume.
Yeah, and I'll also jump in as well. There's probably no need for 2 lasers to scan twice, because that 1 laser could scan twice in the same spot quicker without movement. So it's probably not efficient to scan twice with the 2 different LPUs, because you can do that with a single laser very quickly. I'm going to move on to the second question from Clarence. Are the build lines minimized on the Form 3L? Although they're very small on the Form 2, they are still visible. So I think this is a comparison between the Form 2 layer lines and the Form 3 series layer lines.
Gotcha. So I would absolutely recommend getting a sample part from Shop3D with regards to really kind of dialing that in and seeing for yourself. But the layer lines are absolutely not as visible if you're talking Form 2 technology to the Form 3. I think a key component of that is LFS, right? So really LFS, just to simply put it, we figured out a more effective way to build layer upon layer, right? And so, a key example of that is, working in our clear resin on either a Form 3 or Form 3L. In the past, when you had a lot of peel force, the clear parts would come off kind of frosty, right? But with LFS, when you eliminate that peel force, you have a lot more optical clarity. Just as an example of LFS, right? So a lot of people are doing a lot of light piping prototyping because they can now. In the past, they couldn't. So that's just one example of the benefit of LFS. But the layer lines will absolutely not be as visible. And I think a key kind of reference point will be getting a sample part. I know Shop3D can absolutely show you that with a Form 3 sample part right now, and they will absolutely be able to show you that with Form 3L sample parts when those become available.
Yeah, exactly. And, just in comparison with the technology and the precision from the Form 2, going from the Form 2 to Form 3, we see that the layer lines have decreased. A lot of that has to do with the perpendicularity of the laser, especially along the edges of the build plate, where with the Form 2, there was a little bit more deviance with the spot of the laser, whereas now LFS technology kind of eliminates that. So in that respect, you will see more consistent, better detail, smoother prints, I would say, across the board, especially printing on the corners.
Another great point, Ken, yeah.
And then another question I have is, how heavy is the build surface? I guess the build platform.
It's definitely more robust, for sure. So the surface of the build platforms, I think 2.5 times the traditional build platform of a Form 2 or Form 3. It's definitely a little bit heavier, right? I'd say at least double what the traditional build platform weight is.
Okay. And also, just to reiterate, the build platforms in the Form 2 and 3 now, are hollow inside. So although it looks like a giant slab of aluminum, that's really, on the surface, and it is mostly hollow inside, so it shouldn't be that heavy. But I haven't touched one yet, so we'll see how it is. Another question, Levi, for you. With LFS technology, can you use less touch points to support the model?
That's a great question. So that's another key benefit of this. And no, absolutely. And I think, one thing we didn't touch on today is, Formlabs is an ecosystem, right? So whether that's the materials upstream or the preform slicing software, we really look at our products in their ecosystem, right? So Preform, which is our slicing software, has a lot of very easy to use tools, right? Like one-click print, which will automate and orient your part for print success. But you can get really into the fine details of printing and support structure, right? So you have the ability to deliver light touch supports, which is the ability to manipulate touch point size. And there's an exponential amount of post-processing that you can save yourself when you really get into the details of Preform and really manipulating touch point density or touch support density and touch point size. And the reason we're able to really get into that is because essentially we've eliminated the peel force by roughly tenfold.
Great. And with Formlabs, I've always praised their software team. Preform as a software and Formlabs as a software team, has always done tremendous work. There are constant updates that make, both the resin profiles better every time. And then when we have the light touch supports, it's also easier to remove. So even if you have the same amount of support, you're not seeing as much blemishes, when you do remove it with the light touch supports. So coming from a Form 2 to Form 3 and Form 3L difference, that is actually quite a striking benefit moving to LFS.
Absolutely.
I think that's all the questions I have for now. If you guys have any other questions, you can always email us directly or give us a call here. And our main email address is sales@shop3D.ca. So you can contact us to talk more about this. You can also book an appointment with us to speak with one of our applications engineers to see if your application, works well with the Form 3L.